Hey, we're going right in. We had a little bit of technical problems this morning. Glad to see people this afternoon, this evening, however
Yeah,
it may be. You tell me. We're stuck in the studio. But we had some problems this morning. We were supposed to have a little engineer kind of helping us out, but things didn't quite work out that way. So I had to
come to the rescue.
come to the rescue. Yeah, sometimes that has to be that way, where it seems like the guy has to come to the rescue, or at least in this case,
Absolutely. Yes.
I'm the one that came to the rescue when somebody over here messed up.
I messed up. I messed up royally. I sent
Mm.
the wrong information to what the show was going to be about tonight. I said it was going to be cheerleading part 4 when in fact
Uh-huh.
it
Uh-huh.
is bridge statements part 2.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I got
Exactly.
that all wrong. I should have thought about it and read what was on my mind
Mm-hmm.
before, but I was so caught up in some other things, I didn't. So I apologize for putting out the wrong information. Um, but I'm taking full
Yeah, we
responsibility.
got the right information now, which is
Yes.
very, very good. Very, very good. So, why don't you tell a little bit about what, for the first timers who have seen this the first time and basically don't know much about what this show is all about, though they may know it's a relationship show. Come on, talk to us a little bit.
We are taking the journey together, and we are about relationships and building relationships and cohabiting and marriage and what other type of relationship the parameters you have for your relationship, because we believe at taking the journey together, we believe you are going to relate.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what your mother, father, sister, brother, uncle, or even what Jesus says, you are going to relate.
Mm-hmm.
And we believe in guiding people towards relating in a balanced way. And when we say a balanced way, what we're talking about is you find someone, you meet that someone, and you start out building a friendship. And as that friendship builds and you see that the relationship is getting closer, then you take that relationship with your friend and you build it into a lovership relationship. And you continue that committed relationship with your friend and your lover, so you don't have to choose between one or the other.
Exactly, exactly. Wow. Wow. Hey, we're glad to see people are here. Again, make sure that you go and share to your friends, share to other couples. I don't care, share it to your enemies. We know some of you are really excited about wanting to hear about bridge statements, a little bit more about it for us to dive into it deeper, because we got a good feedback from some people who were very excited and interested on the bridge statements and how much they were planning to, and if they did, they used them in their own relationships, and they were telling us they wanted more so that they could use for bridge statements. So let's start out this. What was bridge statements before? What were we talking about, that what bridge statements were?
Bridge statements are the way to handle a discussion when you are in conflict.
Mm-hmm.
It opens up the lines of communications to make sure that both people are heard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, okay. So that's one thing, you know that bridge statement is all about trying to communicate. Both people are trying to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Both people are trying to do in a time of conflict. And it's not about if you're going to have a conflict in a relationship, it's when
When.
you're going to have a conflict
Mm-hmm.
relationship. Any relationship, I don't care how good it is, and we're talking about healthy and thriving relationships that we're talking about, and we try to base our principles on friendship, which we feel that moving to friendship is really moving into a spiritual kind of way. You're still going to have conflict.
Mm-hmm.
You're still going to have problems.
Yeah.
You're still going to have times that you're not going to agree with one another. So what do you do during those times when you're at that loggerhead, when you're at that conflict time, when you're at the head at that time where both are so ego driven, you really can't move, and you got a chasm of a bridge in between, that you both need to get over. I would hope that when those times are come, you would have more of the philosophy in your head, um, uh, which would should be, I want a relationship.
Right.
Okay, not want to be
Mm-hmm.
right. But
Yes.
many times you find a lot of people in those situations, what they want is they want to be right. They don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily want a
Yes.
relationship.
Yes.
That's right. In a relationship, you're not going to always be right. both of you
Absolutely.
may not be always right
Hmm.
at one time or both times. So when especially at both times, that's a serious conflict
Hmm.
that's at hand. So we had to find out what are we going to do to try to handle this, especially since we want a relationship. We want to fall apart. We don't want to ask for a divorce. We don't want to separate. We don't want to just go our own ways every time we have a large
Right.
conflict or it seemed to move into a fight.
Hmm.
This is are some techniques that we can use to help us out. Remember, if you got any questions or concerns, make sure you put it in the text. We would be glad to have you hear from you and maybe hopefully answer some questions if you have. You got some concerns you're having, some goals you're looking for. Sharon and I now are what you call a licensed what?
Relationship
Relationship coaches.
coaches.
Yes, we finally got some. So if you need some help on some goals that you're trying to reach, you're trying to move to, specifically in the relationship area, especially when we're talking about getting more techniques and more kinds of help on trying to get your relationship to be, how can I say it, more healthy,
Hmm.
more thriving, we
Yes.
certainly would like to talk to you about it and kind of go from there. I think in about 2 weeks, we're going to officially be having a website and a telephone number, probably doing some Zoom calls
Hmm.
with people individually, souls, or
Yes.
even groups to try to help you out
Yes.
so that your relationship can move on, it can expand, it can get better, and you can enjoy your journey.
Together.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. So we found out bridge statements, okay, when relationships get stressful, okay, and we usually from there get what, defensive
Oh, yes.
or offensive or worse to what?
Evasive.
Exactly.
And
Mhm.
I hesitate and stammer over that one because that's my modus operandi.
Mm,
I
mm,
will become evasive. I will back off. I will say things whether just kind of lighten the load. It's like you say, what is going on?
mhm.
Nothing.
Yeah. I like how
I don't
she
know.
I like how she said that. And some of us when we do the evasive mode when there's a conflict going on, we actually think it lightens the load.
Yes.
It
Yes.
really doesn't lighten the
Hmm.
load. Let me give you an example. I want you to listen to this example. This example you could take with you and it will really help you out. You in a relationship with both folks, if you're operating in a balanced way, you're operating a healthy way, that boat basically, for it to float very well, both people have to stay in balance on that
Uh-huh.
boat. If anybody's
Yes.
been on a boat before, you would understand that. And
Especially a small one.
exactly, if you don't understand that, how about if you in turn were on a playground and you saw what? What are those
A
things?
teeter
A
totter.
teeter totter. Anywhere it goes, if someone gets too much on one side of that boat or too much on one side of the teeter totter, if the other person is there, is going to what?
It's gonna go down.
They're going to go straight down or the
Yes,
boat's going
gonna
to
go
flip
down.
over. So you can't think that if I go through the process of being evasive, which is like moving lightly on your side in
Mm-hmm.
the relationship,
Yes.
that somehow the problem is going to what?
Go away.
Go away. No, you just tip that boat.
Yes.
It's going to pretty soon, one way or the other, or just like the cheating title, it's going to one way to come back because you're
Mm-hmm.
actually pushing the problem. You're
Yes.
pushing the concern on whose side?
On the other
On the
person's
other
side.
particular servant side. So you don't want to use evasiveness at all.
No, you don't. Because, that's hiding. But a lot of times we do that out of fear of
Mm-hmm.
repercussions.
Mm-hmm.
But the bottom line is you have to think about it. And this is me talking to me also.
Mm-hmm.
You have to think about it because when you are evasive, what you're really doing, when you're playing on that fear and you're thinking that things are going to get worse, well, it's already bad.
Yes.
So you needed to go in the other direction. And basically, evasion adds fuel to the fire.
Boy, does it add that fuel to the fire. It definitely does. So there is that other one we call being defensive. And then we talked about also at the same time being offensive. Some in those conflicting situations, sometimes it's me, we're offensive. We feel like we have to defend ourselves because someone did something wrong to us. So
Hmm.
we got to be very offensive. On the offense, that's right. Not only
Yes.
offensive, but offensive,
Yeah.
because I'm on the offense trying to figure out, I got to protect myself in that particular
And
matter.
and that pretty much, a lot of times
It
that,
tilts the boat the other way.
yeah, so that the other person becomes more defensive.
Exactly,
you
exactly. They
know.
feel like they're getting ready to push off the boat
Yeah,
from that end.
it's like I'm being attacked.
Exactly.
So to avoid all of those negative statements that are running around in your head and in your, and because your heart is all out of out of it anyway.
Yeah, you're all
This
into
is,
what they say, your feelings.
yeah. And
Mhm.
so in order to avoid that, you come up with bridge statements that keeps the conversation going, that halts where the conflict is, and starts you to say, okay, let's be sensible about this.
Exactly.
Rational,
So
more or
offense,
less.
whether you're offensive, whether you're evasive, which is the worst, or you're being defensive, every one of those things are the worst way to manage stress and manage what you call conflicting situations in the relationship. So we were talking about 5 great stress management strategies, 5 of them. One of them was promotive strike. Okay.
Preemptive.
Preemptive strike. Another one is what?
Postmortem.
And then what?
Protective time.
And then admission statements. And what's the
Uh-huh.
one we're doing right
And then
now?
we're working on bridge statements.
Bridge statement. We are
Mhm.
working on bridge statement. Hey, I'm gonna do a shameless plug of our, yes, a shameless plug of
No, it's
our
not.
hot button. Look at
Mhm.
our hot button.
Yes.
Hey, a hot principle. What does hot stand for, Sharon?
Honest, open, and transparent.
I guarantee you, if you, or we guarantee you, if you use this principle, you will have a very good bridge to stand on when you want to do and
Mhm.
make bridge statements, because a bridge statement is definitely going to have honesty, openness, and what?
Transparency.
Transparency for
And
it to work.
if you use that principle most of the time,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to have a lot of need for the bridge statements in the first place.
Thank you. Talk about preemptive strike. Use
Yes.
that hot button as a
Yeah.
preemptive strike. Oh, look at that right up
Be
there.
hot.
Exactly. As you see below, you can see where you can pick them up. $5. It only costs you $5. You can wear them proudly right here. Start your conversations. If you got a girl you want to talk to, or a guy you want to talk to, you want to see where they are in the inside, not just the outside. Wear that hot button proudly, and when they say something to you, they might say something. Boy, you look hot, or you're hot. You can go ahead and use that to start a good conversation. You can know where they're coming from and make a good connection. And don't forget to tell them, hey, you found that information on Unity and Community. Five
Ooh,
dollars goes to, taking the journey together. But the $5 goes right to what?
ATR.
ATR. It goes to
Hmm.
them. So hey, please.
I just thought of something. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
cut
go
you off.
ahead.
But I just thought about another use for the hot button.
What's that?
If you and your partner have certain days that you do things, maybe sometimes you come home and everybody's wearing the hot button. You're
Mm-hmm.
wearing yours, he or she is wearing theirs,
Mm-hmm.
and it means that tonight, no TV and all that. We're going to just sit down and have a conversation
Ah,
about us and where we are,
okay.
and revisit or reevaluate the status
Mm-hmm.
of our relationship.
That's not bad of an idea.
Yeah, that just kind of popped into my head.
So you said if we wear the button, that's a symbol to do that?
Yeah.
Mm, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we might have to give that a try and see how it goes.
Yeah.
If not, get your hot button. Use that as a good way to start a good conversation, deeper conversation that most of the time we try to hide from, or we get defensive over, or, or worse, we're what, evasive over. It's all about communicating in your relationship. It's very important in your relationship. Communication is very, very
Hmm.
important. I'll say that over and over again. Communication is very important, and part of that communication is having good listening skills.
Yes.
And I know there's many ways that we can communicate, no doubt about it. One thing is for sure, many of us don't use communication at all.
Hmm.
We use that, what I call the most dreaded dark horse, is the horse called evasiveness, where I just don't
Yes.
communicate and say nothing at all.
Yes.
One of the
Okay.
deadly horses in the
Ouch.
relationship. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it really does. See that happen a lot. Well, anyway, let's go on and let's talk a little bit more about and getting into the bridge statement. Our first thing we want to say was, we know unfortunately many of us lack the wisdom to build bridge statements that allow us to cross without drowning in our issues.
Hmm.
We stand basically at the edge of the turbulent water. We can see he's getting upset, we can see she's getting upset, and we many times will pour more hot water on it from that end, especially if we kind of feel kind of boastful and prideful and very egotistical and feel, hey, I'm not going to let that person hurt my feelings because they were trying to do it. And I'm going to make sure that I win in this. So even if they're slamming me, I'm going to get back and slam them even harder because of the fact that I want to keep this thing going. I don't want to build a bridge. I really want a war between both of
And
us.
that's when you become offensive of the other kind, not on the offense,
Mm-hmm.
but you're offensive.
And I think the important thing here, if for us to remember, those who are listening, is that when that conflict comes, you two are actually standing not connected to one another.
Mm-hmm.
You are standing separate from one another, and many times that separate is how you feel from the inside,
Yes.
disconnected.
Yes.
And that disconnection, we use as a ideal flow of water.
Mm-hmm.
But the flow of water between us is turbulent.
Yes.
So the key thing here is it's not really us. If you think about a lot of conflicts that are happening in relationships, them conflicts are not really directly connected to us.
Right.
Either connected to mom, either connected to kids, either connected to the job, or either connected to society, especially with COVID and all the pressures we're having. And we bring them into our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even talk about the past that we carry as baggage,
Exactly.
but we bring it into that relationship, and it is that turbulent water that's between both of us.
Mm-hmm. So many things that
Mhm.
can happen within the course of the day
Mm-hmm.
that piles on to all of those things that you have said.
Mm-hmm.
That, the person walks in, hey, how's it going? And even that sometimes it can be the straw that breaks the camel's back
Mhm.
because your day has been so miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And to see, them coming in that
Mhm.
excited and that happy and whatnot, it's
So
like,
how are you being so happy
yeah,
when I feel bad?
when my day has been so
Exactly.
horrible.
So you're trying to throw this on me,
Yeah,
this
just
happy thing on
trying
me.
to make me feel worse.
Exactly. Exactly.
And those are your parasites. Because if it wasn't your parasite, you
Well,
would be able to
a lot of people don't know parasites. You just say
negative
it's negative
statements.
thoughts that
Yeah,
are going on in your
yeah,
mind.
yeah.
Yeah.
And because otherwise you would take take your partner's uplift and say, okay, maybe things aren't so bad.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, this is my partner. I'm connecting with them. If they're feeling good, I should feel good. Let me
Yes.
take that feel goodness, and hopefully that partner will feel good enough to let me give you this feel
Yeah.
goodness because I'm feeling good. Yes, I want to pass it on to you because that's what friends do. Anyway,
Mhm.
that's what friends are
Exactly.
for.
I knew it was coming. I
who,
could,
who did that song? And then something time.
um,
I'll be there forevermore. That's what friends are for. Who was
well,
it? Who did
Dionne
it?
Warwick did it.
Okay.
I think Whitney Houston did it.
Oh, really? I thought Michael
Yeah.
Jackson. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
But I could do.
He
I
can
don't
have more.
know.
He had plenty of friends.
Sure, he did.
Okay.
I
Well,
don't know.
well, you get the picture.
Yes.
Really,
Yes.
really. The turbulent water or the trouble many times
Mm-hmm.
we then attach it to either us or the other person. We take it very personally when it comes to that turbulent water, and therefore, when we take it very, very personally, then you know what happens. You're just like, there's no way I can see
Exactly.
my way out of this because either I'm personally involved or she's personally involved.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing about this or it's personally involved.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens in a healthy relationship, when it moves to that area, then you two are not connected together
Right.
as an us.
Mm-hmm.
You're not really relating together as a unit. You're not really related together as one. You're really not.
Right.
And I can see in a lot of conflicting relationships or problems that come up. And you are not looking at the turbulent water
Mm-hmm.
or what is the situation that's causing that. You're definitely going to blame that other person.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's easier to blame than it is to look at what the real problem is.
Mm-hmm.
But we're dealing with bridges. And I have to say this, and I've been.
Yeah, I saw you smiling for some reason while I was talking. I'm talking serious. You're smiling. Just give me what you got there.
It's because you keep saying turbulent waters and, and so, and we're building bridges. And I was thinking bridge over troubled waters.
Oh, like a bridge over troubled. Who did that one?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
we're definitely talking about it in a good, uplifting, spiritual way to build bridges.
Yes.
Let's look at our first bridge statement that we had. Let's look at our first bridge statement. Okay. What was one of our first bridge statement that we came up with that would provide us as a couple a way of a problem, excuse me, as a problem solving mode. Why don't you tell us what that first one was, Sharon?
The first one was, um, we are, I'm going to paraphrase this.
Okay.
We
Our
are,
family. I got my. Go ahead.
we are together because of God, ancestors, universe, whatever you believe, and we are meant to be together.
Okay. Okay. So, a good one that you talked about as a bridge straight statement, again, not crossing the
Mm-hmm.
bridge, but connecting to one
Yes.
another, looking at things in a bigger picture,
Mm-hmm.
or what we would say, taking the higher
Yeah.
road. That's what we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about. Taking the higher road understands that this is about an us.
Yes.
This is about us together,
Mm-hmm.
not the individual problem of the turbulent water that we see in front
Right.
of it. And we certainly don't want to jump in that turbulent water.
No,
Outside the fact, sometimes some of us feel like pushing somebody in there, but I'm not saying. But
but you can't because we're on the same side.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Unless you both commit kamikaze.
How about not?
Okay, okay. So we want to take the higher road. Okay. Now these bridge statements, like this first one, is definitely not a cure for all, because you can come up with your own. But this is a very good one. The one
Mm-hmm.
you just brought up again. Say it again.
We are blessed by our spirit, gods, or the
Mm-hmm.
ancestors to be together, and we're on the same side.
We're on the same side. We understand in long-term relationships, there are many a times many things that contribute to strife and marital problems. Okay. And specifically, many of them have to do are the very things that are connected to fights.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we know what we may be talking about
Mm-hmm.
is behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the fight itself causes many of our conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not necessarily looking at that particular fight or that problem. I'm going back over it because it's very important.
Yeah.
We still think that is what?
It's
Us,
it's
the other person.
yeah, that's what I was getting ready to go to. I was trying to decide how to say it. It was like your partner. There were several possibilities there,
Exactly.
but it's not me.
It's a what they call a push pull
Mm-hmm.
situation,
Yes.
where things are set up in such a way where you feel like you're opposite to one another,
Mm-hmm.
and that togetherness thing has kind of lost its what?
It's balance. It's
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah. It's
It's
lost
not
its old,
there.
yeah, your original intentions just seem to kind
Mm-hmm.
of go away. And now I'm about myself. I'm about trying to protect myself, which is not good. So actually, in long-term relationship, it's found that the major contribution to marital strife is many things dealing with specifically fights. So we have to understand that typically that bridge statements will be one of the 80 to 90% way of being able to solve these arguments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
It will really help us in solving the arguments. And here's the solution that we're referring to the next time around,
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to find that you're going to have another conflict again. They don't just happen just once.
Right.
You'll have a conflict again. I'm gonna stop here. If anybody's got any questions, I don't. Hopefully, we're not going too fast or we're throwing too much at you. But if you got any questions, because conflicts really are in our relationships, please ask us some questions, and we'll see if we can help you out with it. We'll see if we can give you some more advice, maybe something personal that you've happened that you may want to little. How can I say it? A more customized way as a goal to help you out. But I'm saying to you these, or we're saying to you these particular bridge statements. Well, I'm trying to find a bridge statement kind of out of my mouth, right? Even right now,
Yeah.
really help us out. Let's go to the second one, by the way.
But before you
What's
do,
that?
I want to mention something, and this has to do with the the couple that we've been working with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Something came up that um, a lot of people realize, but they don't realize,
Mm-hmm.
and that is in confrontation, in conflict. A lot of us have grown up believing that there should not be a conflict. And
Yeah.
so we have no way of knowing how to handle it. no way of knowing how to deal with it. And so there are probably more people out there who have been evasive because they don't know what else to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of the reasons why what we're going over right now is so important, because it gives you an alternative to what you've been doing, which in most cases has not been working.
Exactly. Um, the fact that we do understand that no conflict in a relationship makes it the best relationship, the best relationship, which is just not true
Not true.
whatsoever.
No.
And of course, the next part, if it does happen, excuse me, when it does happen, then the first thing I do is be evasive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say anything. I leave it alone. You
Yeah.
know, you find in some relationships, since you're back there again, is that they're living in the same house and not saying anything to each other.
Right.
I mean, over
Right.
a conflict they had maybe sometimes I heard months and sometimes years ago,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they shut down and really don't talk to each other, really don't relate to one
Yeah.
another. Make sure they avoid any kind of conversation at all, and their life is really kind of dull.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing really excited about it, because they're like, I bring up anything, it's going to be a problem.
And the worst thing you can say is, I don't want to talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
because you need to.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah.
sometimes in the relationship it's set up in such a way that they someone feels in that relationship that they're not really working for us, but what, against
Against
us.
us. Yes.
That they're really not working for us, against us.
Mm-hmm.
Which sometimes you get out of that relationship thing where I'm doing my thing,
Yeah.
you're going to do your thing, and I say maybe we're going to get along, but many times folks said that's how we just get along.
Or that's how we're going to live two separate lives in the same house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So when you feel like that other person's not working for you but against you, you definitely are going to have to understand that that is not healthy. That is not a thriving relationship, especially not a friendship kind of relationship. When those times happen, these are the kinds of statements called bridge statements you're going to need to use. Okay, that could be your perception, of course, that that person's
Mm-hmm.
not before you. I mean, not with you, or not for you. So when that action happens many a times before, with that outcome almost the exact same way, there are times when we perceive that the other person's words and action are against us rather for us. Yet again, what or should this be as the same conclusion when this has happened many times before? Meaning, if this person has acted against you many times before, you can be just that steadfast that this person is never going to be for me.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I can't really trust them at all when
Yes.
they talk or when they say anything. And you know, there's been that situations that I know you've heard in other relationships where someone keeps on doing the same thing over and over
Mm-hmm.
that they promised I wasn't going to do,
Yeah.
but they end up doing it and doing it again.
Mm-hmm.
And when a conflict comes up, or when a question about it turns into a conflict because someone's wondering why your word can't be kept, then evasion comes.
Yes.
And they avoid the whole subject. They try to turn the theme to the subject, try to make sure they talk about something else, or pretend like it doesn't even happen at
Mm-hmm.
all, and not understanding that other person is going to feel very strongly, you now are against me.
Yes.
You're not even on my same team. I don't know what we're even doing in this
Right.
relationship.
Right. And that's one of those hard places to be. But there's a bridge statement for that too.
Exactly. The continuation of that doesn't help in the
Mm-hmm.
relationship.
Yes.
Once or twice that happens, but when it continues, then what happens is we can understand it's a decision. It's not
Yes.
something that's
Yes.
forgetful.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that has to do with, I just can't really understand that. It usually comes down to when it happens over and over and over, especially within the same frame of work,
Mm-hmm.
same time, same thing,
Yes.
then that person's just making the decision to do
Right.
it. They've decided to do it that particular
Mm-hmm.
way. This kind of bridge statement, you may have to use more than what? What would that bridge statement be?
The bridge statement will say, "Hey, honey, look, honey, something like that. Um, I know I don't see, though I don't see it now. I know we are on the same team. I'm also practicing, and this is me jumping off
Mm-hmm.
script,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm also practicing bridge statements, because I don't want to continue to be evasive,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
You're not
that's
as evasive as you used to, especially since, as you said, you didn't know before. Invasive has strongly been part of many relationships.
hmm
In the first place, it's
yeah,
just usually dime a dozen in a relationship,
yeah,
especially striving in relationships, and so we're trying to
Mhm.
move it to the next level. So yeah,
Yeah. And so, you could you make
that was
it.
my bridge statement too, right there. By the way,
I and it was a good one too.
honey, though I don't see it now all the time, but I can tell you right now, we're on the same team.
Yes. But exactly. And the way you were talking
Mm-hmm.
about um doing the same thing over and over again and being a
Mm-hmm.
decision. You could say something for that one, like,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah, honey, I understand that this is not the first time I've done this,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want to do it the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
There are probably reasons why I did do it the wrong way, but they're not important right now. The
Mm-hmm.
important thing is I am sorry that I did it the wrong way again. And in the future, I'm going to make it a point to focus on the right way."
Now, one of the things you just got through saying, because it can be very tiring and move you into a real negative, low energy spot
Mhm.
of being not antagonistic, but feeling real annoyed.
Mhm.
That can move into anger and rage when a person does it over and over
Yes.
and over again. No doubt about it, if a person who did this over and over again said a statement like that, it usually brings to their mind the reality of their errors of the way, from the
Mhm.
standpoint of, I'm not really keeping my word because
Yes.
I hear myself speak it, number
Right,
one.
right.
And the bridge statement also has you realize that you're connected to that other person.
Mhm.
And so you build a energy in your own self, because you're speaking something that you have to hear on both sides, that usually will make you or move you to be more believable of who?
Yourself.
Yourself.
Mhm.
That's right.
Yeah.
Speaking
Yourself.
out loud what you feel and what you think will have you be a believer of yourself, let alone another person that's listening to you. Now, we
Yes.
do this a lot ourselves, folks out there. You know what, too. When we cussing at somebody, we're
Uh-huh.
putting somebody down. We
We're
sometimes
getting
can hear
loud.
ourselves, and I'm guilty of that sometimes. We love hearing our voice, or we like hearing our voice. It reverbs back to us. It makes us feel like we're really on top of this situation,
I got
and makes
power.
exactly. So that's the power of the word, or
Mhm.
your word, that affects you, let alone the other
Yes.
person. So imagine using that bridge statement in something. I'm just going what you said. Will you
Mhm.
do it again? You did more than once. I would say that you could see that that would cut down your lack of actions, because you've already spoke open to that person and you heard your own self saying, this is something that I need to stay on top of. And I would bet you would hear your voice again, or for the
Yes.
first time.
Yes.
If that came up, it would
Mhm.
bug you in the back of your head, your consciousness. You know, like you said, the conscious, you got the little devil here and the angel here, and it
Angela.
speaks to you at certain times,
Mhm.
and it looks like you with your voices. So there's no doubt about it. These abridged statements are very good statements to
Mhm.
use when you are in turn in those conflicting
Right.
situations. You don't have to use honey, folks.
I know.
Okay,
I
you
just
don't
did
have
that
to.
because it had it up had,
You could say baby, you could sweetheart, you can use some other
pet name.
pet names too that
Yeah.
would definitely help out from there. But the main thing is doing that time that both of you know, or someone speaks that, hey, we are on the same team. This troubled water is that troubled water. It's not us. It's not us.
Mhm.
That's a way to
Yeah.
separate yourself
Yes.
from that. I think that's very important. Okay. Got no questions? Anybody questions out there? Any
Raise
concerns?
your hand.
Anybody
No.
has input? Maybe you got a testimony, or as they call in the church world, or maybe you have a experience that you had
Yeah.
before and you want to tell your story that had to do with some conflict that you have, and maybe you tried on your own type of bridge statement that helped you out. If not, we'll move on, and we'll be glad to hear from you some other time later on in the program. Now, if things are not as they appear, we are tempted to jump to what we call emotional conclusions. I'll say it again. If it doesn't appear what we think it should be, we jump many times to emotional conclusions before we have all the facts. Oh, I
Mhm.
bet you no one does that.
No. No. No.
You don't think so?
No.
Oh, wow.
Uh-uh.
You mean people always are keeping their head and always being
Mhm.
logical and sound
Mhm.
about
Mhm.
things?
And they wait
And
until
they never get in their
and
emotions?
they wait until all the facts are put out, and
Mm-hmm.
And then once all the facts are put out, then they say, hmm, let me judge this. Let me take a look, a
It
closer
would be prejudged in this case.
Okay, now we know that in heated situations,
Hmm.
especially, that doesn't happen. That
Yes.
doesn't happen. As a matter of fact, sometimes if it's really a heated situation, one person may cut the other person off
Hmm.
before they get a chance to present all of the information.
Yeah, that is because the other person may just may again don't want to hear it.
Right.
So they're being very defensive about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't want to hear what you got to
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
anyway. Yeah. That emotional conclusion before we have all the facts, it's very perplexing when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like some people call a witch's brew or an out of control situation.
Yeah.
Real out of control
Yeah.
situation. You don't think logically. You don't think sound whatsoever. Never does the other person. Again, those thoughts that have got you in that gray matter, that fuzzy thinking, that angry thinking, is really just that turbulent water.
Mm-hmm.
It's the situation that is your perceiving in your mind, in your head, that is conflicting, that has you believe that, and then from there, you're just all in your emotions
Right.
from that end.
Right.
So there's a bridge statement that we can do, and we can really need to think about doing those times, because many couples that come to these banks of that hostile waters that we talked about,
Mm-hmm.
if you are not certain, or if you are of a certain cultural complexity, then sometimes you could be pushed.
Yes.
Sadly.
Yes.
And now we're moving into that area that has to do with what's the one I'm use? Relationship abuse.
Yes. Name calling and things of
Yes.
that sort.
So sometimes the pushing in the water in this case, or be pushed, could be something physically that
Yes.
happens. And
Yes.
if we're not going to lie, fighting happens. Physically fighting happens in many relationships.
Mm-hmm.
They won't talk about it. You won't hear it all the time on the news. And sometimes that kind of abuse gets so far into it, gets into the news, and people get
Mm-hmm.
the police involved. And that kind of abuse
Yeah.
goes as far, mainly with a lot of women that had that happen, though men also get abused, physically
Mm-hmm.
abused too. But that is when we are pushing each other
Yes.
into that water. Or another thing we can think of, we're both flying a plane and we're thousands of miles in the air and turbulence are coming. And you have yourself and you have her, or vice versa, as a pilot and a co-pilot, a co-pilot and a pilot. And someone says, "Oh, I'm going to crash this plane," and just boom, pushes the wheel down, and you go straight nose down, 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 until that plane crashes. So it kills you, it kills your partner, and if you got kids in the back of the plane, everybody goes.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody goes. And
Yes.
it's worse if both of you two want to crash the plane,
Yes.
because you don't want to really fly anymore together from that
Right.
end. Yeah. That
Right.
that kind of hostility. Okay. When you get to that, you get that kind of hostility and you get pushed. We encourage you to assume that the other person is not stupid, that other person is not evil or incarnated, meaning we can use words that she's not a B and he's not a N
Right.
word,
Right.
because we know culturally, condition wise, many of us, especially us African American or Black, we have got that kind of stereotype, that self
Mm-hmm.
hate that will move
Yes.
in us. And when those conflict times come,
Mm-hmm.
that troubling water just moves through us and say, well,
Yes.
that other person is that.
Yes.
That other person is that.
And at that point you throw those words around like it is
Butter,
gold.
sadly.
Yes.
You see a lot of young folks who
like you
throw it
give
around.
uh,
Both of them.
very
Yeah.
easily, very
Yeah.
easily. And think nothing about it,
Mm-hmm.
and don't realize how those words can get inside you and become a part of you,
Mm-hmm.
and they are debilitating words,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes people are extremely sensitive,
Mm-hmm.
and when you throw those words at them over and over again, they start feeling like, well, I must be, so I'm going to just take
This,
on
I'm gonna say that
those
the
characteristics.
seeds, and they take
Yes.
off. They
Yeah.
may even had a little bit of those characteristics like that,
Mm-hmm.
but you keep putting the seeds or keep on watering. How's that?
Exactly.
Them seeds gonna grow. You're gonna end up where you in turn had a little bee, and she gonna be beginning to be the
Yes.
big bee. He had
Yes.
a little end. He gonna end up being a
And
big
yeah,
end.
exactly. And so, you got to see those things and
Mm-hmm.
stop those things. And you've got to look at you and see if these are your characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
If you know that you get angry and you come all out of pocket and you do all kinds of ridiculous things, then you need to find some bridge statements for yourself before you even get to that point. Like talk yourself down,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and say, okay, I'm getting out of control here, you know. And I know that sounds like, who's going to do that when they're angry?
Mm-hmm.
Well, some people will, if they train themselves to do that, and say
Train themselves. I
say
like to
there's
say
there's
that.
another way.
Well, the training you're referring to is maybe and hopefully the information we're giving you, we're
Hmm.
passing on to you. We practice this. It doesn't happen all the time. Meaning we don't always use bridge statements as we should. And sometimes when we get in a situation, we don't have to. But we know bridge statements are important. And
Right.
going back to what you're saying, that kind of uncomfortableness and get it out of hand happens every time. We even notice ourselves when we did.
Hmm.
When you feel like the other person's attacking you, is not on your side.
Exactly.
And then from there, you forget very
Right.
easily we are not really to be what? Together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the importance is trying to remember I'm here in this relationship for a reason. I have a purpose behind it. Both of you two stay on that particular agreement. With that agreement, when those tough times come around, the conflicts come around, because they're gonna come around.
Hmm.
You will at least have in the back of your head, especially using that friendship as your base. You're gonna have in the back of your head, the back of your soul, the back of your heart, that this is my friend. We are on the same team. So then it makes it easier for you to use that bridge statement and de-escalate the situation.
Right. Right.
Otherwise, you know what happens to that domestic
Hmm.
violence always ends up, when you listen to it, always from the standpoint of that person is not on my side. They're against me because they're taking my kids. They're against me because of the fact that they want to be on my dad's side. They're against me because they're trying to take money from my kid, from my job. They're against me because of the fact they got a boo or a lady or a guy on the side. You see what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Because the
Always.
lack of feeling that we are together, or
Or
in
valued.
a value, or we're,
Hmm.
well, yeah, of course,
Yeah.
or last but not least, which is the most important, that we're even in a relationship
Right.
at
Right.
all, period, to
Hmm.
relate with one
Hmm.
another. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, please, if you got any questions, you got any concerns, please give us a
Comments.
comments. Do also too, as an old preacher used to say to me, whatever we're talking about, put it in a deep freezer. Put it in your deep freezer. One day you'll need to bring it out. One day you'll have to bring that out if you're having conflicts. It
Hmm.
might be something you may have to use tonight. Bridge statement number 2. Which bridge statement number 2? Very important one.
We will work this out by the Spirit or God's grace. Our Spirit or God will give us an answer.
Yes.
We'll work it out.
A bridge statement of
Hmm.
that, I think, is very
Yeah.
powerful. And that's a bridge statement that sometimes we don't think about.
Yeah.
We don't really, well, I guess it all depends, because there's some people who are very religious,
Hmm.
and they would use, God and Jesus as
Yes.
hopefully their
That's where the faith that things are going to work out okay.
exactly comes
That's
through that.
where that's where it's
Hmm.
housed. That's where it's packed away in a little suitcase that you can take everywhere you go.
Yes,
You
exactly.
know.
Whether it's good or bad or excuse,
Yes.
or usually would do it when the problem happens,
You
and and
put
and
it
and
down
and,
and
and
open it
it was
up.
a band-aid kit. But anytime before,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
to make sure that we still feel we're connected,
It's in
then
the
no,
deep freeze.
no,
Yeah.
because the
Yeah.
only reason I say that is because, and I'm saying that all those who are religious, who believe what they believe in, so it's not the same. I'm not feeling the same way. But some people who have religious belief system,
Hmm.
their idea of them being connected, it's still not there.
Right.
They believe that their connection is with their God, their spirit, whatever it
Hmm.
may be, but actually feeling that you and that other person is connected, in is to be connected, or has a purpose to be connected.
Right.
There's a reason why we're connected. They may not feel that and believe that at all,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
And so you'll find in some of those relationships where one person would be very strongly in religious taboos and traditions, going to church on Sunday and Wednesday and all that stuff. And the other person could be like a husband, just don't go at all. So
Yeah.
you just go there. I don't
Yeah.
care nothing
I
about it.
see
I'm
you
not.
when you get
I
back.
see exactly. Or if they're even there, they don't pay no attention to them because
Yeah.
there's so much involved in the spiritual religious aspect.
Hmm.
So they don't even feel that they really have a connection.
Right.
And sadly, it is they don't even really feel that they have a connection in the side of their own belief of God,
Hmm.
their own
Hmm.
spirit. They
Yeah.
don't see that there's a deep side to this
Yeah.
relationship that really is what to be at the center for your connection in the first place, that
Yes.
hopefully you two came together because you feel there was a purpose, you feel there was a reason, you felt like when you did your vows, if you're doing the marriage thing,
Hmm.
that we do this to death do we depart under God or something like that. I can't
Yes.
remember what that the total vow was, but usually
Hmm.
that is what we claim to our fame in relationship, that
Hmm.
we're connected to. But sometimes that doesn't happen at all. It's not even
Right.
there,
Right.
not even there at all. So when we work things out and say, hey, we are to be together,
Yeah.
there's a purpose for
Hmm.
this. God has placed us together the same way you and I feel that God has placed us together. Spirit
Right.
has placed us together in which is why we do what we do when we
Hmm.
speak what we speak, and
Hmm.
believe very strongly the higher ground of thriving, healthy spiritual relationships are important. And with the power of us both believing that, from the standpoint of the power of agreement, and we act upon it, then it comes to pass. The
Right.
same way, if you didn't believe it and I didn't believe it, and we shouted at one another and we fussed at one another, then guess what? Those kind of troubling things would come to
Come
pass
exactly.
with
Exactly.
no problem too. So when you yell, curse, and physically fight, and anger and sometimes rage comes up when you feel there was no other way, this negative energy is birthed because one of you or us have no valid points to our arguments.
Exactly.
You think about that sometimes?
Yes.
You've got
Yes.
no valid point to your argument. You just basically know, man, I ain't right from what I'm saying, but I don't
Yeah.
care.
And it's the times like those that sometimes the other person is sitting there thinking, what are we arguing about?
Mm,
You come in here and you bring all this anger,
mm-hmm,
and you're about to make me angry, and I don't even know why. And you're not articulating why.
mm-hmm.
It's but you have it and you bring it in, and you know it's one of those things that you got to work your way through.
Yeah,
But just because somebody your partner comes in angry and you don't know why, does not mean that you get the right to blow it off,
exactly,
because
exactly.
it could be something that is your fault,
Yeah.
that you've
Stubbornness,
caused.
sometimes stubbornness can really be a blockage too,
Yeah.
where someone will have no problem swallow their dignity, grace, care, love, empathy. They'll swallow it with no problem. And dignity just, excuse me, and pride stands much more higher
Mm-hmm.
and says, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't
I'm
care about how
good
noise.
anyway.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so
And
this
then and then
idea
here's
of, is this really God behind it? Nah,
yeah.
don't. Well, maybe, but I don't care.
And then here's the real one.
Hmm.
You you're lucky to have me anyhow.
Ooh,
Yeah.
wow, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That is not going to be a bridge statement, folks.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to be like chopping the legs out from under or whatever it's called at the bridge, chopping it down. No,
Oh, you can't live
without me.
without me. Yeah, that
Yes,
one. You
yeah,
can't live without me anyway in the
yeah,
first
yeah,
place. I'm the best thing you ever had.
exactly. I'm like, seriously?
Mm-hmm.
That is some serious ego talking.
Well, one, one,
Yeah.
one thing for sure, it doesn't give you the feeling, the other person especially,
Hmm.
and it doesn't give the feeling inside the person that says that they're connected with you.
Right.
They may feel that you're connected with them,
Hmm.
but they certainly ain't making you feel like you're
Right.
connected to them. So
And
both having that feeling, we're on the same team, we're both connected, we're
mm-mm.
both are here because this is what God's purpose is about, and why we should exist with one another. No, that ain't gonna happen.
No,
That's not gonna.
not even
No, no,
close.
no. It's gonna be a hard conflict. Bridge statement is going to be very, very strong. It's good to say, very hard for you to bring up at
Yes,
all.
yes.
So when we are tempered, okay, and we lose our cool, we are tempted to move into an area of what I call unbelief. That's right. I'm saying that we're talking some faith kind of spiritual things, because the relationships should be about us connected from our spiritual point of view, whether it's
Mhm.
under God, which a lot of people do, or under your spirit where you feel you're connected with in your ancestor. It's a belief. I never knew this person before. She never knew me before, but we're connecting now because we want to know each other. We want to make that connection.
Yeah.
And there are rules, or should I say, there are elements that we take to pass for us to have that happen.
Mhm.
Hot is one that we talked about. Now we're talking about those bridge statements when conflicts are starting to happen. Why? Because now we are understanding that when those conflicts come and we have a hard time dealing with that because we feel separate, we're talking about we don't have much faith in us anymore.
Right.
We don't have faith in this relationship. That's
Mhm.
right. You can lose faith in your relationship.
Right. Very quickly.
Yeah.
Very quickly. And when you do, sometimes when you start losing faith, it's because you've got other things going on, and those things are compounding the actual reality. And so, you need those bridge statements to try to get things back
Build
on
that
track.
faith back up. That's what
Exactly.
it's called. Putting some
Exactly.
seeds to build that faith up. When
Mhm.
you are conveying that your spirit or your God or whoever you believe is supposed to connect you together, when you convey more of that anger and the unbelief, you really, really are saying God's spirit, or however you believe, is not going to be able to what?
Solve it.
Solve that problem and
Mhm.
solve our problem.
Yeah.
That particular troubled water that we just talked about between both of us, it's us. I might as well jump in it because there
Mhm.
ain't no way it's ever going to get smooth. I'm never going to right. You're never going to be right.
Yeah.
And so
Time to
God can't
swim
even help
away.
this. Yeah. God help us, as they say.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and you've seen relationships get very, very,
Mhm.
ugly. People
Yes.
get killed, people get
Yeah.
beat up, people go into the hospital. And at one
Mhm.
particular time, we seem to love each other very dearly.
Yeah.
And then the children, of course, from there become the fallout, the
Mhm.
fallout, sad to
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen people who say I'm just through. I had a friend who um unfortunately their relationship was built on ultimatums. Um they started living together because of an ultimatum that she put out. They got married because of an ultimatum that she put out. And then when he wanted her to um, do something, go back to school, actually, she was like, "No, I don't want to go to school. I'm not interested." And he put out an ultimatum,
Mm-hmm.
and then about her going back to school, and she was like, "Okay, I'm not going back to school. So who's gonna leave?" I'm like, "What?" And she came and told me this, and I'm like,
Mm.
"How do you do that?" It didn't make any sense to me, but it was one of those things that I can put out ultimatums, but you can't.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do what I say, but I don't have to do what you say.
Mm-hmm.
There are no bridge statements any place. There's this thing where the whole "we're meant to be together" thing is gone,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're just jumping into the water,
It is.
you
It
know.
is. When you convey that we are here with a purpose, and we believe that our purpose can be solved in our conflicting times by God
Mhm.
or by spirit, it then promotes a win-win situation.
Yeah.
Instead of the other way, there is no win-win.
Mhm.
Somebody may win, but somebody will lose
Right.
because we don't feel like we're connected. When you put that centerpiece that has to do the reason why you're connected,
Mhm.
okay,
Mhm.
the purpose why, predestination, whatever we call
Whatever.
soul ties, twin flames, whatever you may want to say, you then make it a win-win situation. And what it does, it helps you jump over that turbulent water. That's right. And keeps from casting those what shadows on one
Yes.
another. And we
Mhm.
find that the futuristic statement that we speak of truth, that God or our spirit is here to help us out. It helps to what? Smooth the tension in the
Mhm.
room. That's what it does.
Yes. Yes.
Here's a good example of a one of those kind of bridge statements in that situation. Though I don't feel it or see it at this time, our spirit or God will give us an answer to this. I'll say again, I want you to
Yeah.
hear this out. I want you to take this with you, because sometimes it gets that far where you got to look past yourself, the troubled water, and you may have to say, hey, I don't feel this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't really see this at this time. I'm not feeling this, babe. I'm not feeling this, sweetheart.
But
I'm really not.
I may not be seeing clearly either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to let the Spirit, we're going to let God work this out. Work it out means give us an answer.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that means we may have a little time out for one another.
Yeah.
We may have to have a break from one another. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And do something that is not negative, like I don't like you while I'm gone. I'm gonna give you the vibes. I didn't want you in the room. But you'll let that troubled water be troubled there a little bit, because you know over time that God or your Spirit will smooth it out. Because in the first place, that problem may not have been yours or hers in the first place. Could have been the job, could have been kids, could have been past stress in the society, racism, and all that other stuff that goes on, and has came through the door. You carried it with you, or you're carrying it with you, and that was really what was behind it. Yeah,
exactly. And so, we've got to take a good look at those things. And, when we practice this, you'll find that you're able to avoid losing our temper, and we're able to move into and not move into old cycles of anger and blame. Um, Instead, we're able to join hand in hand and fight together.
All right, give me some, sister. Give me.
Yeah.
There's just no doubt about it today, especially in our troubled times, and passing on to our young folks. They need to know that we can be power connected together. They need to know that we feel and believe and made the choice to say we are connected together. We cannot give that perception that, hey, we just fell into this, don't know much about it, don't care anything much about it anyway, especially at our older age, or even after the time we've been around, and therefore ain't no chance for this ever to stay together. That kind of stuff that gives that kind of perception and echo and mirror to a lot of our young folks, you can see why they're just like all messed up. They don't know where to go. They don't think that kind of connection will ever be able to make. But yet on the other side, we see some people who are, don't happen a lot too, but we see some people are more committed to jobs, committed to gangs, more committed to other kind of shenanigans with no problem and stay connected. It could be rituals, and they stay connected to year after year after year after year after year. Exactly, or to jail sometimes. But yet in the relationship, like, no, it can. There are elements, there are ways, there are things that you could take the higher ground, taking the journey together, that could help you out in your relationship and help you move further. Hey, make sure you listen to us on WRUU 107.5 when?
Saturday morning at 9:00.
Okay, and right here on ATR Network, you get to see us, right?
Exactly.
6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You know some people around who are watching us. We got a new engineer. He's trying to tell us we got to get ready to shut down because he's got to do his commercial stuff. Hey, until we see you again, make sure when you take that journey together, that if any trouble comes up, use that bridge statement, because you are supposed to be together. And only you two can know that. And you two have to believe it. And you two have to make that happen. Until next time, God bless, Ashe, and may everything be a adventure in your life. Go ahead, take it over, Mr. Engineer.